How could someone amass a whopping $100 billion while working a regular 9-to-5 job? Well, the story of Steve Ballmer, the ninth member to join the exclusive Centi-Billionaire Club, is nothing short of intriguing. Unlike his peers who founded giants like Google, Tesla, and Amazon, Ballmer took a different path. He didn't start a major company or make groundbreaking investments. Instead, he found himself in the right place at the right time. So what's the secret behind Steve Ballmer's extraordinary success working the standard 9-to-5 grind? Well, let me tell you the tale of a man who went from being a Harvard graduate to Microsoft's largest individual shareholder and LA Clippers owner. Let's rewind a bit. Steve Ballmer was born on March 24, 1956 in Detroit, Michigan, to an immigrant family from Switzerland. His dad worked as a manager at Ford. Even though Steve didn't start his own company, he showed remarkable intelligence from a young age. He attended Detroit Country Day School, a college preparatory school where he not only graduated as a valedictorian, but also aced the SAT, scoring a perfect 800 on the math section. Today, these achievements are almost a must for getting into top-notch universities like Harvard, but in 1973, when Steve was admitted to the class of 1977, the criteria was a bit more reasonable. While at Harvard, Steve focused on applied mathematics and economics. In his spare time, he worked on the school newspaper and even managed the Harvard Crimson football team. However, the pivotal part of his undergraduate years was forming a friendship with Bill Gates. Back then, Bill was on the brink of dropping out to start Microsoft. Some sources suggest that Bill invited Steve to join him in leaving Harvard, but Steve opted for the safer route and completed his degree. In 1975, when personal computers weren't a big deal, it made sense for Steve to stick to the traditional path. After Bill dropped out to dive into Microsoft, Steve pursued academic excellence, graduating magna cum laude in 1977. He then secured a job as a project manager at Procter & Gamble, where he stayed for 2 years before heading back to school for an MBA at Stanford. During a summer break, Steve approached Bill Gates, seeking a summer job at Microsoft. While Steve just wanted a short-term gig, Bill had grander plans. He asked Steve to drop out of Stanford and become Microsoft's first full-time manager. Although hesitant 5 years prior, Steve felt more secure this time. He had a Harvard degree, Procter & Gamble experience, and only 1 year left in his Stanford MBA. Even if Microsoft failed, he could easily find a high-paying job elsewhere. Despite Steve's solid position, his parents were still concerned. When he informed them of Bill's offer, his dad questioned, "What the heck is software?" And his mom wondered, why would a person ever need a computer? As you could tell, Steve's parents weren't exactly sold on the idea of Microsoft. Nevertheless, Steve decided to take the plunge and join Microsoft on June the 11th, 1980. Entering the corporate scene, Steve became the 30th employee at Microsoft, pulling in a salary of $50,000 per year, equivalent to about $163,000 today. Beyond the paycheck, Bill Gates promised him a cut of 5 to 10% in future equity. On paper, Steve held the title of business manager at Microsoft, but he humorously described himself as essentially Bill's personal assistant. From hiring new staff to doing odd jobs like cooking and washing bottles, Steve wore many hats. Steve's breakout moment came in 1980, when Microsoft had a crucial meeting with IBM. Bill asked Steve to tag along, not because of some brilliant strategic move, but supposedly because Steve was the only one who knew how to wear a tie. However, Steve's presence turned out to be more valuable than just fashion advice. Bill Gates and Paul Allen lacked experience in negotiating contracts and forming partnerships, but Steve, despite limited experience himself, had the most among the trio. During negotiations with IBM, they managed to insert a game-changing clause into the contract: non-exclusivity. IBM paid Microsoft $430,000 to develop MS-DOS, but since the deal wasn't exclusive, Microsoft could sell the software to other computer manufacturers. IBM agreed to do this because they were under investigation for monopolistic practices, and allowing non-exclusivity with Microsoft was a way to navigate the situation. Between 1981 and 1985, Bill focused on the technical aspects of MS-DOS, while Steve took charge of the business side, selling it to various computer manufacturers. This move propelled Microsoft's revenue from $16 million in 1981 to $140 million in 1985. Bill kept his promise and awarded Steve a personal equity stake in the company when it went public in 1986. At the end of the first trading day, Microsoft was valued at $780 million. Bill Gates' 45% stake was worth $350 million, and Paul Allen's 25% stake was worth $195 million. While Steve didn't have as substantial a stake, his 8% translated to an impressive $51.5 million. Considering he had only been at Microsoft for 6 years at this point, it meant he was earning over $10 million per year. This success likely convinced his parents that Microsoft was a pretty good deal. However, this was just the beginning, as Steve's net worth would skyrocket in the years to come, reaching levels that were a fraction of a percent of what he's worth today. Now let's dive back into his story, as the early days of Microsoft were just the starting point. Steve took on various traditional corporate roles in the next 6 years at Microsoft, assuming leadership positions and serving as a manager and director. It wasn't until 1992 that he officially became an executive, holding the role of Vice President of Sales and Support. During this time, his significant contribution was leading the development of the .NET framework. In July of 1998, after 6 years as Vice President, Steve was promoted to President of Microsoft, becoming second in command after Bill Gates. When Bill Gates stepped down as Microsoft CEO in the early 2000s, Steve Ballmer ascended to the top role in January of 2000. Unfortunately, Steve Ballmer's tenure as Microsoft CEO gained a reputation for being less effective. Criticisms often centered around the stagnation of Microsoft stock over the next 14 years and various eccentric moments captured on camera. Despite this, some argue that Steve's passion for Microsoft was genuine, and the lack of stock growth wasn't entirely his fault. Taking over Microsoft at the peak of the dot-com bubble in 2000, Steve faced challenges. The dot-com crash hit just 2 months after he became CEO, causing Microsoft stock to plummet from $58 to $21 per share within a year and a half. As the stock began to recover, the financial crisis struck, pushing it down to $15 per share. However, Steve made significant contributions to Microsoft's progress during his leadership, championing the Xbox, even when many executives doubted the move into gaming consoles. The success of the Xbox today attests to the wisdom of this decision. Well, that's it. For now, make sure that you like our video. Please share your views in the comment section with us and subscribe to the channel to get further updates. Thanks for watching the video, and we'll see you at the next one.